My biggest goal for 2025 was to have a business, and I didn't accomplish it. So today I want to take some time to go over all of my goals for 2025. Why it's cringy? Because it's been a year and I thought it was a great moment to revisit them. And then I want to talk about what I want to do for 2026. I feel like it's a lot easier to have perspective on where you want to go when you know where you're coming from. If you've never done it before, starting is a good step, but I think having the context of where you're coming from and what the intentions were helps you put the puzzles and pieces together better. If you don't cringe, like when you're looking at your yearly goals, did you ever move? Like, did you go anywhere? Did you do anything? And this is not a judgment. I'm getting accustomed to, reading things I wrote and being like, oh my God, I can't believe this was me. I can't believe I said this. I can't believe I wrote that. So let's do that together, because wouldn't it be fun? I've been working on my 2026 goals, and I thought that this warranted a longer format sit-down conversation. These are my goals. It's empty because I have a draft. This is my draft. And I'm cleaning it up. I'm starting over. So yeah, I've been tracking a lot of things for a lot of years. I've been doing monthly planning for as long as I can remember. That's not true. I've been doing monthly planning. I've been journaling. Like, I have significant amount of notebooks. I've been journaling consistently, I want to say, since 2016. And my journey with journaling has changed significantly over the years, where it started kind of as I needed a notepad to remember things, and just started doing it in a notebook so all my notes would be together. And then progressively over time, I started writing about other things in there. And then I kind of got into journaling, I want to say around 2020, I really kind of started putting more of my feelings and thoughts and emotion into this. But it also became this kind of ledger of everything that's happening in my life. And so the natural progression of this was to be a bit more intentional with what I want for my life, my career, my relationships. It kind of became a ritual for me. I have a Christmas adjacent birthday, so my month of December has always been this time of reflection and kind of a month where I take a long, hard look at my life, I guess. I've been into this planning for my 2026 year for 2 weeks, I want to say. I brought all my notebooks today because I started looking through my year. Because what's the point of doing a monthly planning and a recap and revisiting it monthly if you're not going to take a time to look at last year's goal? So I recorded a bit already last week where I was kind of going through my 2025 goals, and I feel if that isn't cringy, probably you haven't grown. And mine was cringy plenty. I looked at all my goals and I was just like, why did I write this? So that's a great opportunity. I think it's a great starting point for 2026. My main goal for 2025 was to get equity or have secured equity / started another business by the end of the year. Today is December 12th. I have not accomplished that. I've had significant traction over the years and a lot of close calls, but nothing that is the manifestation that I had in mind at this point. So that's my main goal for 2026. So I'm basically going to spend from now on every waking hour, or almost, working on that goal. So my goal was to break it down into small and digestible chunks. Because taking a big goal like, I want to have a business, it's a really hard thing to say, okay, you wake up and Monday morning, you sit at your computer, it's like, how do I acquire a business today? There's so many things you could do. You could buy a business outright. You could work your way into equity into another business. You could start something from scratch. There's a lot of ways. You need to pick the way you want to use to acquire that business. There are some upsides and downsides to all of these options. But in my book, the most fun I'm having is building things. So obviously the building route is something I'm really interested in, but I also want to make it work for me. And so I think the only way to break it down into a measurable weekly sized chunks, or realistically a week-long task isn't really a task if you ask me, is how do I take this big goal and break it down into 12 little boxes, right? How do I make sure that every month I have things that I do that help me get to a point where I can get closer to my goal? How do I manufacture opportunities? How do I make luck? Because a lot of this is right place, right time. Someone had an idea, called me, and I had no control over the whole thing because really it's someone I talked to years ago, or they saw a LinkedIn post that I did, and then they had an idea for me 6 months later. Like a lot of the opportunities I've had in my career were stuff that I built relationship over time, right? There was nothing that could have predicted that this opportunity would have ever crossed my past. There's nothing that I could have done to make that happen other than just knowing the right people. And this is something that I can't really measure. For the longest time, I have consistently written to 3 people every week to get coffee. So rain or shine, no matter what, how busy or not busy I was, I would do my 3 outreach every week. And usually those 3 outreach turned into at least 1 coffee date, sometimes more. But I did that consistently for a couple years when I came back from my maternity leave, and that has paid thousands of dividends. So this is like the kind of stuff that I want to implement in this plan for this year. My 2026 plan is a much simplified version of what I did last year. My main goal and my only goal is to have a business by the end of the year. How I will do it is the following. There's three steps or pillars, if you want, call it that way. The main thing I'm going to do will be to vet business ideas like my life depends on it. So I will do research on specific industries and try and come up with 3 to 5 business ideas every week that I could do some research on and validate. From those 3 to 5, I will pick 1 every week that I will spend more time on to do research and talk to potential clients and understand if this idea has legs. My goal is to get to a point where at the end of the week, I have an idea that I've did minimal validation on, but significant enough that I could decide if I'm going to spend the rest of my month on it or not. And so if every week I do 3 to 5, and then I end the week with 1 that is validated or not, every month I will have validated 4 business ideas. And hopefully at the end of the year, I have maybe, 2 or 3 that are significant, that are worth spending more time on, that I will at that point have spent a significant amount of time on. Because don't forget that if I do this in January, in 3rd week of January, I get something. By the time it's December, and I'm saying this now in December of 2025, but it's very possible that you're watching this in 2026. And I said this now, and really I did this for 7 weeks and then found something I really liked and dropped the whole plan and worked my ass off for the rest of the year. I'm okay with that happening, but my intention right now is to do this consistently. And I know that I can. I am really good at processes and organizing, and I will make an Excel spreadsheet that I will put in the link here as a template. So if anybody wants to use it, it's there. And I'm going to put that Excel spreadsheet there and publicly share everything that's in it. So week one, the ideas that I've looked at, the one I've picked and the one I've validated and the outcome of that validation, everything will be there for anybody to see. I'm already doing these videos every week, so I thought, why not? Just share my goals with everybody and let you in on what's happening. Okay, so as far as my other goals, because I have life goals in here that are not, have a business. I want to keep putting money in my emergency fund. I would like to get to a point where I have a year's worth of expenses in my emergency fund. I have 18K in it right now, but I want to get it to at least 30. This is like an ongoing thing. Some months I put more money in it, some months I put less, but that's the number one priority. I am also putting money in other places, but my emergency fund is just like, I keep telling myself this is enough, but then I'm like, but what if something happens? I like having the safety net. My second goal for 2026 is to get a financial advisor. This is something I've been doing a little bit here and there. I've had a couple of coffee dates with a couple of financial advisors. I don't feel like I've found what I was looking for just yet. And so 2026, I will make this a priority in the first, I was going to say quarter. Realistically, I'm going to do this in January, and I would like to have something set up and all of my investments transitioned by the end of the first quarter. I put in my 2025 goals that I wanted to qualify for Boston. That goal has been put on hold, but I have registered for 2 races in 2026 and Backyard Ultra in May and a half marathon in October. My goal is to PR my half marathon time and hopefully do something in the realm of 1:32, 1:34. There's a couple of things here that I feel are basically just, laundry list at that point. But I want to keep posting on LinkedIn at least twice a week. I want to post on YouTube 25 times in 2026. I wrote 25. I've been posting every week, but realistically, I don't know if the pace and the amount of work I want to put into these videos is going to become too much and it's taking away from my main goal, which is, the business thing. I want to give myself an out, but I think 25 every other week is pretty consistent and still interesting and valuable. I want to make sure I have something to say in these updates, because if I spend my day doing YouTube videos and I'm not actually working on my goals, I want to read 25 books. This is a big one. I've been struggling for the last year. I used to be a big reader. The past couple years, I read, between 30 and 35 books every year. And I just kind of fell off the wagon this year. I think I read, 5 or 6 books, if I'm generous. I think my kid growing and the changes of our routines and everything made it that the times I usually had to read, I'm not commuting for work nearly as much anymore. And there's just I need to make it a priority. And that's the thing that's been bothering me. And I consistently have a book with me that I don't read. So yeah, that's top priority. I also wrote goals as far as net worth and stuff. And so I've been tracking meticulously all of my investments. And I feel like since my bankruptcy, I've learned a lot about money, not just in a personal finance point of view, but also just in general. The reasons my business went bankrupt, being we ran out of money, made me develop a very strong interest in how businesses operate and cash flow management and all of these things. So I got really good at it, and I started using myself as a test dummy. So I operate and systemize my life the way I do with my businesses. And so tracking my cash flow and tracking my financial goals and my net worth just feels like a natural extension of this. Even though I think one of my main takeaways for 2025 was that it doesn't actually matter. I'm realizing, and this is a thing that I've worked on for years, I've had this, I guess you could say, trauma from the bankruptcy, where I've been really scared to run out of money for years. And even now that I'm at a point where I'm living comfortably, I have savings, I have, my life is set up in such a way that it would be really hard for me to lose everything. But there is this kind of omnipresent thing where I would take contracts that I didn't need just because I was scared I would lose the ones I would have, which there was this pattern that I saw and recognized, especially this year, where I got in situations where at some point I had 11 or 12 clients. Part of this was really rooted in this, I'm scared I'm gonna lose money. I'm scared I'm gonna run out of money. Last year, there was a lot of government cuts done to a lot of significant funding programs for companies. And I lost 2 clients within 10 days of each other. And when that happened, I went from having a comfortable income to, I lost $5,000 in monthly recurring income in the span of 10 days. And it was so sudden that I remember coming out of the room and looking at my wife who was coming, and I was just like, I think I have to get a job. And there was that moment of a couple weeks where I actually worked on my resume and I actually sent out some resumes. And then I realized this is miserable, I hate doing this, but also if I spent all the time I'm putting looking for a job into looking for work, I could find work, which is what happened. And I have taught myself that I can have my own back. And I think that was probably my biggest unlock of 2025, regardless of all the goals, regardless of all the money and the other things. And this is also partly why I'm recording this video, because a lot of those things that you write on these things, it's like bullshit, right? You can't track progress if you don't have the self-awareness. And for me, taking the time to write these down, I have the 2025, it's right here. Let me just find it. I just found it because I was looking at my book, and this is gonna be probably annoying. Okay, yeah, so I have the 2025 list here I wrote. This is the actual planning I did for 2025. This is the actual list I did for 2025. And guess what? I didn't follow that at all. But I wrote it down and I thought about it. And looking at this thing that I wrote, which is literally my life plan, and I wrote this late November of last year. And a lot of the things on this list are cringe. I'm reading this and I wrote triple my income. I wrote that I wanted to triple my income. Last year I did $75,000 in sales. And tripling my income would involve me making more than 200 grand. I don't need 200 grand. I can live off 40. I don't need 200. I would not even begin to know what to do with $200,000. If I had $200,000, I would invest it and then just buy businesses. But I do not have the lifestyle that warrants that much money. What the fuck do you do with 200 grand? Anyway, I'm saying this as a joke sometimes. I actually told my mom, I was like, I just want to have steak money, I want to have enough money that I can buy fancy steaks once in a while and I can buy cheese. I'm a simple girl. Cheese and steak is pretty much, how you get to me. Reading these 2025 goals was a quite cringy experience, but it's also interesting to see where my head was at last year and then compare it. And I feel like the biggest thing about doing your goals for the year is the first ones are the hardest one, because it involves you sitting there and looking at this notepad for 5 hours and thinking, what do you want for your life? That's not something that, for me anyway, I could just come up in 2 seconds. I have this vision of, cheese and steak and living somewhere in the woods in the middle of nowhere. That's my vision of being rich. So for years, I've been looking for a good template for a personal annual review. I've tested a few over the years, And I don't feel like any of them really kind of hit it home for me. And this is something that I like. There's an appeal to me, partly because I'm a December baby. So I feel like every year, December is this kind of month long. Where am I going with my life? What are my goals? Am I on the right track? And something fell into my inbox earlier this week perfect timing, and actually that might be my new favorite annual review. I just started it yesterday and I felt like I should talk about it. It's a 7-question thing. I don't know how long it's supposed to take you. I did it in like 2 hours and I didn't feel like I had enough time. Like, part of me, in order to think about my year and document what happened, I need to like look at my notebooks and then read a bunch of things and be like, oh yeah, this happened, because like I don't remember what I did last week. How do you want me to remember how my month of February went? So I started, but I didn't finish it. There's like a PDF that he has. I'll put in the link in the video if you want to have a look at it, because I think it's super relevant. And so I think doing that exercise and spending like a day just thinking about your life and your year, and I mean, if you're journaling like me and you have actual ledgers, for me, reading those often helps me bring perspective, because you remember specific instances, but you don't remember all the weird, quirky things your child said and those things, right? And that's partly why I feel like 2025 for me was an amazing year, like just from a variety of point of views. From a growth perspective of myself, career-wise, relationship-wise, parenting-wise, I think I've been a lot more self-aware, and I'm just really happy with the way things went. And so doing this review was really kind of this unlock where I was like, okay, these are the goals I set myself for the year. This is what actually happened with the review. And then the third step is doing 2026 goals. And so I'm in kind of like this process. I don't feel like I've polished my finished version yet, but I want to talk about it because it's a process I've been in. It's been on my mind a lot, and it's a really hard process, but it's so worth it. I feel like every single year I get better at these, and every single year I feel like I'm learning more and appreciating my life more and just like growing as a person. So I guess that's my wish for you. I'm really glad that I found this. It's a system that works for me, and I figured I would share it because it's been massive unlocks. So anyway, if you're still here, I appreciate you. If you have any suggestions for me and you're just like screaming at your screen, like, how are you so dumb? Just do this already. I'd love to hear, because this has been a really long process, and I will expect next week to return to regularly scheduled programming where I talk about businesses and niche and industries that I've been looking into. Yeah, I took a little break because I was working on my yearly planning, because I felt like there's no point in putting water in the bucket if there's a leak. So fix the leak first, and this is what this was. Anyway, see you next week.